Hello, I'm Org, and in this game I'm playing my New York Tier 5 American battleship. And I really like this ship, but it's still finding it a bit average, just compared to it's pretty much what you get in battleships, where you go up a size in guns, and you get a lot worse, relatively speaking, in lots of other ways, and New York's a bit like that. Compared to Wyoming, it's just not that great. But it's still pretty average. So I'm thinking about taking my first shots here. Spotted an enemy cruiser, we lost sight of it, we regained sight of it. It's a Königsberg, which is a nice light cruiser, so it's kind of fun to shoot at. And we've lost sight again. 3 hits. Don't know how much damage it did though. Hopefully we'll see in a second if the Königsberg reappears. But for now, we're just going to find other targets. Now this game is on New Dawn, and as you see my team's basically all headed in towards C. The enemy team is going for aim. Oh, and there's the Königsberg. It took a lot of damage. Hopefully that was all from me. I say because I want all the damage. Another broadside off at that poor Königsberg. And there's a destroyer over there as well. Oh. 5 more hits on the Königsberg, 3090 damage at least. Not ideal, but what are you going to do? At that kind of range, it's always a bit of luck involved. I could have just as easily got 2 citadels and sunk the poor ship. But 3000 damage is still 3000. Oh, and the Königsberg has lost a lot of hit points. But that must have been some of my allies shooting at it. Take another broadside at the Königsberg, but I wasn't very optimistic about getting any hits there. And now it seems like I've missed entirely. As you can see, the enemy team has captured A and B, whereas we've captured C. And basically I start angling my ship. I really want to push into B, but there's a great mass of my allied ships here. I don't really want to abandon them. That's basically how I die in New York most of the time, is I push aggressively and my team doesn't come with me, which always feels like a bit of a letdown, but I'm learning. If I start taking a direction, make sure my team's following before I keep pushing. I say that, I'm not really learning. I do it maybe once in the game, and then a few minutes later I'll forget and just get myself killed. But whatever. That destroyer, which was pushing onto the mass of my team, is dead, so we're actually leading on ships at the moment. We've lost 1 destroyer, the enemy's lost a destroyer and a cruiser. You see me preparing to take some long-range shots at that Omaha. There are some nearer ships, you can see over there that Königsberg in Wyoming, but I don't really have decent shots at them. Maybe if I wait for a little bit, the Wyoming will come around the corner here of the island. Oh, they've hit each other, I think. So I'll take my shot. It's a bit of a guess, but it looks pretty alright actually. Most of the shots fell short, but we still did a few thousand damage to that Wyoming. And now, well, it looks like my team, kind of well in front of me, they're either going to push north or turn into B, so I start swinging into B, hoping that they're going to come this way. Because as I've said, I want to go into B. It's basically the centre of the map. The centre of the map is always important to control, but it's more important that you stick together as a team. And that destroyer is definitely heading into B. It looks like 1 cruiser is heading north, and unfortunately heading north there is going to take that cruiser out of the fight for a very long time while it goes around that big island. But in the meantime, I've got ships to shoot at. That Wyoming's barely moving, but it's angled quite poorly for me. Calibre, this Wyoming's fairly flat on, so I'll wait for my guns to reload, another 5 seconds. I'm taking fire from a couple of the enemy ships, but not major damage yet. Fire my guns, put the enemy fire out.
The ship is on fire.
And it looks like the bulk of my team's coming into B, so I'm going to swing in here as well. 5,500 damage on that Wyoming. So I'm actually getting some decent hits there, 22 hits so far. Except for that Königsberg at the start, where I'm not sure I did all that damage. They haven't been particularly extravagant so far, just been nice solid hits. Oh, and here's that Königsberg. I'm pretty sure it's the one from earlier, and it appears to be stopping in front of my entire team. So that's not a good idea. decide to fire off 2 guns, because that would be more than, or 2 turrets, that should be more than enough to kill it. And I don't get any hits, but it's possible that it died before my shells arrive. Unfortunately, I'll waste the rest of my broadside because, well, that island was in the way. Oh no, spoke too soon. Get 4 hits! Enemy severely damaged. And do a fair bit of damage to that Calibre. And the Caliber's a protected cruiser, so I actually don't really like shooting at it in a battleship. It's got a very good chance of over-penetrating. And its deck's quite heavily angled, so there's a good chance of bouncing off it if you manage to not over-penetrate. Try my luck at the Calibre again. I'm not liking that shot. Oh, it's a St. Louis. Now, St. Louis's I like shooting at. They're basically just poorly armoured cruisers, which means my shells go straight into it, and it's got just enough armour to stop them coming out the other side, and there's 11,300 damage. I really don't know why people think St. Louis's are... Well, people think St. Louis's are great because you've got so many guns that shoot so fast, but they are so vulnerable to battleships. Like, St. Louis is an average ship in my opinion. It's got one big strength and one big weakness, and its bit situational watch is going to be more effective. But I do pretty well on it. Full broadside out at that St. Louis. 3,000 damage, and well, that's it. I only got 3 hits. So maybe I spoke too soon about the vulnerability of St. Louis's to battleships. Well, like I said, I got 3 hits and did 3,000 damage, so that's still pretty good. Just obviously my accuracy was a bit off on that broadside. It doesn't look like I'm going to get a 3rd chance at that St. Louis. And unfortunately this little island is going to get in the way here. But on the plus side, my team has captured B, and we still hold C, so we'll actually be gaining points quicker, but the enemy team is still leading in points, and they are also, no, we're equal in ships. Fire at the Congo. It's got pretty thin armour, so I should do well here. 10,558 damage from 6 hits. So again, battle cruisers not that great against actual battleships. Of course, the one big advantage the Congo gets over the New York is that it's got a lot more speed, so it can actually choose the range of engagement, and it can choose not to engage with me if it desires. It's angling away pretty effectively here, so this next broadside probably won't do anywhere near the same damage. Oops, and apparently I'm going to run aground. It's angling away. I still take 4,300 damage, do 9,300 damage. I'm surprised that was so much. But as I said, the Congo doesn't have the thickest armour, and unfortunately I'm going to run aground here. But my team's surrounding me pretty well, and actually at the moment no enemies can really shoot at me except for that Nevny over there, and possibly, I think it's actually the Gnevny. I suck at Russian. There's also a battleship over in A which could possibly shoot me, but they're not. So, well, for now I'm just going to wait and see who comes around the island here. It looks like that St. Louis is going to be the first one. Just line up my broadside. I'm not really sure how to aim here. I'm having a hard time judging the speed of the St. Louis, but I have a bit of a guess. Didn't quite give it enough lead, but I still do 2,000 damage. And the St. Louis has just died, so I contributed there. Actually, oddly enough, I've done 48 hits. Still haven't got any kills. Haven't got any citadel penetrations either, which probably explains that. But I've done, well, 3 big broadsides on the enemy. And here's the Congo again. I'm choosing the Congo over the Wyoming because the Congo's a tier 5 ship, so it's more dangerous. It's also got thinner armour, so I should do more damage to it. And it's got less hit points, so I should be able to knock it out of the game quicker. So all in all, Congo is the one to shoot at in this situation. Oh, and there's my first citadel and my first kill. 12,000 damage to that Congo. Oh, well, that was nice. And it's brought our teams back even. The difference between the teams is that my team's got 3 battleships. The enemy team's got a cruiser and 2 destroyers as well as 2 battleships, which makes their team a bit more balanced. They've also managed to retake C, and they're still ahead in points, so they're actually gaining points quicker than us. The thing my team is, we're still fairly concentrated around B, although that battleship off by C is a bit far away to support us. Oh, and I should stop talking about the strategic situation because there's an Omaha coming around the corner at very close range, and my guns are all loaded. Oh well, only one citadel, 4 regular penetrations, but went from full health to almost nothing, and my Furutaka ally finishes it off. I also get the High Calibre and Confederate award from that broadside. But that was kind of a foolish move in an Omaha. You don't want to come within 7 or 8 kilometers of a New York class battleship if you're in a Omaha or really any light cruiser. Best to stay away. So the Wyoming, it's turning flatter onto me, so this might be a good shot here. Furutaka is firing at it as well, as is my other battleship ally off behind me. I've lost sight of it, but I have a good idea where it's going to be. And I'll start focusing on this other Wyoming now. 6 hits. It lost a lot of hit points, and presumably I did a lot of that damage. So in front of us we have the Wyoming and the Gniewny, and that Wyoming just sunk the Furutaka behind me. Not surprising, that Furutaka had very little hit points. I decided to fire at the Wyoming, believing that in this particular moment that's a ship I can do the most damage to and I have the higher chance of taking out of the game. And since it's down to 3 on 3, 2 battleships versus 2 destroyers, with a destroyer on our team and a battleship on our team, we're actually at a pretty significant disadvantage here. The enemy destroyers are of course optimised for killing battleships, and there's no more cruisers for myself and my other battleship to shoot at, which means this could actually be quite awkward. And remember when I said that occasionally I isolate myself from my team and get myself killed because I'm being too aggressive? This is that moment in that game. Basically that destroyer that was with me has pulled back, the battleship that was behind me is still miles behind me, and for some reason instead of turning around I continue to push forward. Basically I liked my chances of engaging this Gniewny in close range. It's got short range torpedoes, I'm a fairly agile ship, I can afford to take a few with my hit points. Did 3,800 with that broadside, but I'm just not getting much in the way of fire support from my allies. Or, well, no, you see, I'm getting hits. It's just not as effective as I'd hoped. I turned away, and I'm able to dodge most of the Gniewny's torpedoes. I say most, as I take 1, 2 hits, so a third of the torpedoes it fired hit me, and I'm still alive. I'm able to repair the flooding, swing my guns back around, hoping I can kill the Gniewny. But it's going into smoke, fire my rear 2 turrets, get a hit but obviously don't sink it, so I miscalculated badly there. And to make things worse, my allied destroyer has died, the Wyoming fires at me, aims, oh, I was about to say aimed too far ahead, but it seems like I got a lucky citadel in there and managed to sink me. So poor play by my part at the end there. I should have swung around and stuck with my team and possibly helped this Wyoming out with the Izokaze that's coming up behind it. As I said, we were in a bad situation. At some point, myself and this Wyoming were going to have to try and deal with the enemy destroyers, and we're simply not great ships at dealing with destroyers. Neither of us have particularly great secondary armament, slow rates of fire, high dispersion. We're not that agile, well we are for battleships, but not in the grand scheme of things. And, well, this Wyoming lives, only because we lose on points. But I'm still fairly happy with the result. 1200 experience on a loss, got the Confederate and the High Calibre medal, only 1 kill, only 2 citadel hits, but 68 regular hits on top of that. Top of my team, and actually by a fairly significant margin. And you see I was kind of 3rd best on the enemy team. And here's why, 131,000 damage. And you saw very little of that was citadels. Got very few kills, but that was all just the regular penetrating power of the 14-inch shells of the New York. And there's a lot of power in this ship. It's just that, well, in this situation, I basically played pretty well. I ran aground at one point, which I do a lot and really need to get better at. But I mainly made my usual mistake of playing aggressively when my team wasn't really in a position to back me up, and I suffered for it. I should learn to play a bit more conservatively. But it's actually kind of hard to do in ships like the New York because your speed is so slow that if you play conservatively, often you get left behind by the battle, and that's just not fun. So maybe I'll just take the occasional loss as I did in this game. But still, it always sucks to have a game come so close and then you die in the final minutes, or final seconds really, of that game, and we lose. Especially when you've done 130,000 damage. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.